Everything you have been told about the history of our species is a lie. A comfortable, academic, and safely packaged lie. We are taught that our ancestors were primitive. We are told they moved heavy stones with ropes, wooden rollers, and brute, sweating force. We are led to believe that Stonehenge, the Great Pyramids, and the enigmatic pillars of Göbekli Tepe are isolated monuments of vanity or superstition. Tombs for dead kings, temples for imaginary gods. But look closer. Look at the precision. Look at the scale. If these were mere monuments, why are they all built from the same specific materials? Granite, quartzite, basalt. Materials that possess a unique physical property, piezoelectricity. When you compress a quartz crystal, it generates an electric charge. When you subject granite to massive pressure, it vibrates. It sings. Now imagine the entire planet as a circuit board, a massive, rotating sphere of iron and silica. On its surface, thousands of tons of crystalline rock have been placed with surgical, mathematical precision. They are not scattered. They are mapped. They are aligned to the stars, yes, but more importantly, they are aligned to each other. Across oceans and continents, from the fog-drenched plains of Salisbury to the high-altitude deserts of the Andes, a silent conversation is happening. A signal is being sent through the very crust of the Earth. A low-frequency hum that matches the Schumann resonance, the heartbeat of our world. We are not looking at a collection of ruins. We are looking at a global neural network, a planetary scale machine designed to harness the energy of the Earth itself. It is a system of communication that predates the written word, a wireless internet built of stone and frequency. And for 12,000 years, this machine has been dormant. It has been waiting for a specific astronomical key, a code written in the stars that only triggers once every great year. As the magnetic poles shift and our modern satellites begin to glitch, the stones are waking up. The silence is ending. The hum is growing louder. The question is no longer how they built it, but why they turned it on. Because if this is a transmission, who is currently checking the inbox? Let us travel back to the moment the history books claim civilization began. 12,000 years ago, southeastern Turkey. For decades, we believed that humans were hunter-gatherers at this time. We thought we were barely surviving, chasing mammoths and living in caves. Then, we found Göbekli Tepe. It did not evolve. It appeared, fully formed. Massive T-shaped pillars, weighing up to 20 tons, carved with intricate, high-relief depictions of animals that shouldn't be there. Vultures, scorpions, strange humanoid figures with no mouths. Mainstream archaeology calls it a temple. But why build a temple before you have a city? Why build a sanctuary before you have agriculture? The logic is reversed. Göbekli Tepe was not a place of worship. It was the input port. Geologically, the site sits on a massive limestone plateau, a natural conductor. The pillars are arranged in perfect, concentric circles. In the world of telecommunications, we call this an array, specifically a phased array. When sound hits these pillars, it doesn't just bounce, it resonates, it focuses. The carvings on the stones are not art, they are schematics. They are symbols of the specific frequencies required to tune the site. The mouthless figures represent the fact that this communication did not require speech, it required vibration. Archaeologists found that the site was deliberately buried, not destroyed by an enemy, but carefully packed with earth and stone, as if to preserve it. as if someone wanted to hide the technology until a later date. Or perhaps they were shielding it from a global catastrophe, a solar flare so powerful it would have fried the planetary circuit. By burying Göbekli Tepe, the Harmonics, this forgotten master civilization saved the master switch of the global network. They knew that one day we would dig it up. They knew that by the time we found it, our technology would be advanced enough to recognize what it was. But they also knew something else. Göbekli Tepe is only the beginning. It is the modem that connects to the server, and the server is located thousands of miles away, hidden in plain sight under the shadow of the Giza Plateau. As we analyze the acoustic data from the T-pillars, a terrifying pattern emerges. The vibrations aren't random. They are coordinates. They are pointing to a specific point in the Pacific Ocean, a point where there is no land, only a deep, dark abyss. And deep within that abyss, something is answering the call. Forget everything you think you know about the Great Pyramid. It was never a tomb. Not a single mummy has ever been found within its original masonry. There are no inscriptions, no praises to pharaohs, no funerary art. Instead, we find a structure built with the precision of an aerospace component. The Great Pyramid of Giza is a resonant cavity. It is a machine made of 8 sides, not 4, designed to catch the subtle seismic vibrations of the Earth and compress them through its massive internal chambers. Why granite? Why the King's Chamber, built of massive red granite blocks transported from Aswan, hundreds of miles away? Because granite contains high concentrations of quartz. When the Earth vibrates, the pyramid acts as a gargantuan transducer. It takes the low-frequency kinetic energy of the tectonic plates and converts it into electromagnetic energy. This is the amplifier of the global network. The air shafts are not for ventilation. They are waveguides. They are precisely aimed at Orion and Sirius, acting as antennas for specific stellar frequencies. If Göbekli Tepe was the input port, Giza was the broadcasting station. But what was it broadcasting? Researchers have discovered that the dimensions of the Great Pyramid are a mathematical scale model of the Northern Hemisphere. It is tuned to the Earth itself. When the network was active, the pyramid didn't just stand silent. It hummed. It glowed with ionizing radiation. It was a wireless power plant and a deep space transmitter combined into one stone mountain. The sarcophagus in the King's Chamber was not a coffin. It was a tuning fork. A human, or something like a human, lying inside that granite box would have their consciousness synchronized with the frequency of the planet. They would become a living part of the network, a biological interface. But the power of Giza was too great. To maintain the signal across the curve of the Earth, it needed relay stations. It needed nodes that could catch the transmission and pass it on without losing the data. It needed the giants of the North. And that is where the stones of Karnak and Stonehenge begin to scream. In the Brittany region of France, there is a place called Karnak. It is home to more than 3,000 standing stones, stretching for miles in perfect parallel lines. Archaeology calls them grave markers, but they are not arranged for the dead. They are arranged like a transformer substation. These stones are mostly local granite, rich in quartz. They are placed along geological fault lines, where the Earth's natural electrical current, the telluric current, is at its strongest. Karnak is a massive capacitor. Its purpose was to stabilize the energy coming from the Giza amplifier and distribute it across the European continent. Each stone acts as a literal bit of data in a massive stone-based fiber optic cable. From Karnak, the signal travels across the channel to the British Isles. Here, we find the most famous node of all, Stonehenge. Stonehenge is not just a calendar, it is a synchronizer. The sarsen stones and the smaller blue stones, which were transported from 150 miles away in Wales, create a specific acoustic environment. If you stand in the center during a solar alignment, you are inside a focused electromagnetic field. The blue stones are the key. They possess unusual acoustic properties. When struck, they ring like metal bells. These are lithophones. The builders of Stonehenge didn't choose them for their look. They chose them for their sound. Stonehenge was the clock. It ensured that every other node in the global network was perfectly synchronized to the millisecond. Without this timing, the data, the harmonic code, would become corrupted. But what was the data? What information was so vital that it required the movement of millions of tons of rock? The answer lies in the geometry. When you connect the dots between Karnak, Stonehenge, and Giza, you don't get random shapes. You get the flower of life. You get the fundamental blueprint of the universe. The network was transmitting the blueprints of reality itself. It was a library of creation, stored in the vibration of the Earth's crust. But as the network grew, it required a terminal at the very edge of the world. A place so remote, it served as the final exit point for the signal. We are going to the most isolated place on Earth, Rapa Nui, and the Moai are waiting. Rapa Nui, Easter Island, the most isolated scrap of land on the face of the Earth, thousands of miles from any continent, yet home to nearly 1,000 monolithic giants, the Moai. Mainstream history tells us these were ancestor statues, moved by walking them with ropes, but the Moai are not just statues. They are subharmonic resonators. Look at their design. Huge heads, elongated ears, and heavy, flat bases. Many of them once wore pukau, massive red scoria hats. In the language of ancient engineering, these were not hats. They were capacitors. Red scoria is a volcanic rock with a high iron content, capable of holding an intense electromagnetic charge. The Moai were positioned on ahu, stone platforms that act as grounding pads. They all face inland, toward the island's extinct volcano, but their collective gaze creates a spiritual and physical grid. This was the terminal, the exit point. Easter Island sits exactly on a major planetary ley line intersection. It is the end of the line for the signal sent from Giza and relayed through the Americas. The Moai weren't looking at the villagers. They were focusing the Earth's internal hum into a tight vertical beam. When the network reached its peak frequency, the Moai acted as a massive discharge array. They were uploading the collective data of the planet, its biological health, its magnetic status, and perhaps the consciousness of its inhabitants, directly into the ionosphere. But who was the architect of this system? Who possessed the mathematics to calculate the Earth's curvature and the physics to turn granite into a superconductor? The answer lies in the myths of the birdmen and the tall ones with shimmering skin. They were the Harmonics, a civilization that didn't use fire or steam, but mastered the great tone. And they left a warning that we are only now beginning to decode. A warning about what happens when the network is forced to reset. Every machine has a breaking point. Every circuit can blow a fuse. 12,900 years ago, the geological record shows a sudden, violent spike in global temperatures, followed by a cataclysmic melting of the ice caps. This is the Younger Dryas event. To the ancients, it was the Great Flood. But what if the flood wasn't an act of nature? What if it was a system failure? The megalithic network was designed to balance the Earth's energy. But something went wrong. A massive solar eruption, a Carrington event on a prehistoric scale, hit the planet. The stone nodes from Giza to Tiahuanaco couldn't handle the surge. The quartz in the pyramids began to vibrate at a frequency so high it shattered the structures. The telluric currents, usually a steady hum, became a searing bolt of lightning that traveled through the ley lines. The crust of the Earth, reacting to the electromagnetic stress, buckled and shifted. The Harmonics realized the network was about to explode. To save the planet from being literally torn apart by its own energy, they had to pull the plug. They deliberately buried Göbekli Tepe to break the circuit. They deactivated the Giza amplifier. But the momentum was too great. The sudden cessation of the planetary hum caused a massive tectonic recoil. The oceans rose. The cities of the Golden Age were swallowed by the waves. The survivors fled to the mountains, carrying nothing but the holy word, which was actually the mathematical constants of the network. This is why we find the same sacred geometry in the myths of every culture. The numbers 72, 108, and 432. These aren't just numbers. They are the tuning frequencies of the Earth. We are living in the ruins of a post-apocalyptic world, trying to play a piano when we've forgotten what music is. But the reset was only temporary. The system was designed to reboot. As the Earth enters a new cycle of precessional alignment, the stones are beginning to draw power once again. And if the system is rebooting, the original users are about to receive a System Online notification. For decades, we have looked at the stones as external tools, but the Harmonics understood a fundamental truth. The human body is not separate from the Earth's circuit. It is a part of it. Every cell in your body operates on an electrical charge. Your heart generates the strongest electromagnetic field of any organ. Your brain is a transmitter of wave frequencies. We are not just observers of the megalithic network. We were designed to be its mobile nodes. At the center of your brain sits the pineal gland. Modern science calls it a vestigial organ, but it contains tiny calcite crystals, biological quartz. When the global network was active, these crystals functioned as a biological modem. The megaliths were the routers. We were the users. This explains why ancient cultures practiced trepanation, the drilling of holes in the skull, or wore elaborate metal headgear. They weren't trying to cure illness. They were attempting to retune their biological antennas to the frequency of the stones. In the presence of a humming pyramid or a vibrating dolmen, the human consciousness wasn't just expanded, it was integrated. Telepathy was not a supernatural gift, it was a bandwidth. When the System Online status was active, every human was connected to the Akashic Cloud, the collective data storage of the planet. There was no need for written language, because knowledge was a shared vibration. But when the network was deactivated during the Great Reset, we were disconnected. We lost our signal. This is the true meaning of the fall of man, or the Tower of Babel, the moment humanity lost the ability to understand one another because the central server went dark. Today we use smartphones and Wi-Fi, clumsy, toxic, and primitive imitations of the Great Harmony. We are surrounded by artificial frequencies that jam our natural signal. We are living in a state of constant electronic noise, designed to keep our biological modems from ever reconnecting. But what happens when the noise fails and the ancient signal starts to leak through? Look at the world around you. Magnetic north is shifting at an unprecedented speed. Satellite GPS systems require constant recalibration. Animal migrations are failing as whales beach themselves and birds lose their way. The mainstream media calls it climate change. The esoteric truth is far more terrifying. The network is rebooting. As the solar system moves into a high-energy region of the galaxy, the Earth's core is heating up. This internal heat is putting pressure on the quartz-rich crust. The megaliths are being compressed. The piezoelectric effect is kicking in. Reports of strange hums, the hum, have tripled in the last 5 years. People living near ley line intersections report vivid, download-like dreams and sudden onset of tinnitus. These aren't medical anomalies. They are the sounds of the system handshake. In 2024 and 2025, secret sensors placed by world governments near Giza and Stonehenge recorded something they refused to make public. The stones are emitting bursts of gamma radiation during solar eclipses. They are polling the satellites. They are searching for the master signal. Our modern technology is actually accelerating the reboot. Our 5G towers and satellite constellations are inadvertently acting as a jumpstart for the ancient grid. We have built a digital layer on top of a stone foundation, and the two are starting to merge. Military dark sites are being constructed around the world's most powerful megalithic nodes. Why? Because the elite know that whoever controls the first connection controls the future of human consciousness. They are trying to firewall the planet before the original owners return. But you cannot firewall a mountain. You cannot password protect the vibration of the earth itself. The countdown has begun, and the stones are no longer silent. The signal is now at 98% synchronization, and the destination of that signal is finally coming into focus. If the earth is a transmitter, where is the receiver? For decades, we've looked at the alignment of the Giza pyramids with the belt of Orion as a mere tribute to the gods. This is a shallow, primitive interpretation. In the world of high-frequency engineering, alignment isn't about honor, it's about line-of-sight transmission. The megalithic network was never a closed loop. It was a galactic bridge. The specific geometry of the global grid, the way the distance between the Great Pyramid and the North Pole relates to the speed of light, proves that the Harmonics weren't just terrestrial architects. They were masters of the ether. They knew that the vacuum of space is not empty. It is a conductive medium for longitudinal waves. The signal being broadcast from the Moai of Easter Island and the apex of the Great Pyramid is aimed at two specific targets: the Sirius star system and the Orion Nebula. Why these? Because Sirius is not just a star. It is the central sun of our local cluster, acting as a massive gravitational and electromagnetic relay. In the ancient Dogon myths of Africa, they speak of the Nomo, beings who came from Sirius and taught them the master tone. The megalithic network was a two-way street. It allowed for the download of advanced genetic blueprints and planetary management protocols. It was a stellar umbilical cord. Through the stones, the Earth was kept in homeostasis with the rest of the galaxy. But there is a darker side to this protocol. If the network is a bridge, it can be crossed in both directions. The stargates of the ancient world, like the Puerta de Hayumarca in Peru, a literal doorway carved into solid rock, were not metaphors. They were nodes where the frequency was high enough to temporarily thin the veil between dimensions. In 2026, as the system handshake completes, these gateways are no longer dormant. The air around the ancient sites is beginning to ionize. The blue orbs seen by thousands near megalithic sites are not UFOs in the traditional sense. They are data packets or probes being sent through the newly opened corridor. The interstellar protocol is active. The dialing tone has ended. The ringing has begun. And the most terrifying part? Someone just picked up the phone. We have spent centuries asking, are we alone in the universe? While standing on top of a machine designed to ensure we never were. The final question isn't whether the signal was received. It was. The question is, what happens now that the Harmonics are coming back to inspect their property? Imagine a gardener returning to a garden after 12,000 years. He left a perfect, automated irrigation system, the megalithic network. He left a biological workforce with the potential for high-bandwidth connection. But upon his return, he finds the system broken. He finds the mobile nodes, humanity, living in a state of amnesia, poisoning the planet, and using primitive, explosive technology that threatens the delicate balance of the solar circuit. To the Harmonics, we are not civilized. We are a system malfunction. The return will not be a Hollywood-style invasion with ships in the sky. It will be a frequency shift. As the network fully activates, those who are not tuned to the new Earth frequency, those whose biological antennas are clogged with artificial noise and low-vibration fear, will find the new reality physically and mentally unbearable. The megaliths are not just monuments, they are filters. They are preparing to purge the noise from the signal. As you stand near the ancient stones today, you can feel it. A vibration in your marrow, a memory in your DNA. The gods of our myths were never gods. They were the system administrators. And they are currently logging back in. The elite of our world are fleeing to deep underground bunkers, hoping that miles of rock will shield them from the great tone. But they forget. The stones are the conductors. There is no place to hide from the vibration of the earth itself. The connection is established. The terminal is live. The era of the silence is over. We are about to find out that we weren't the masters of this world. We were just the stewards of the equipment. And the owners have a very specific plan for the next cycle. If you could hear the message the stones are broadcasting right now, would you even want to know what they're saying about us